We are live again. Another fine edition of Kev and Convos. So ties back on.
How we doing, everyone?
You are a mainstay now, I suppose.
Yeah, it's like my residency now. It's
That's
like
what
Vegas.
that's what it is. So you're gonna be a regular, I guess. We're working on a project still together.
Oh,
It's it's still live. It's still happening. And actually, I've been away for a few days, so you've been the captain of the ship during those 3 days.
yep. It
So
was it was good, not too much to report on, the basement's coming along very nicely. Things are moving, things are rolling. Uh it's coming together nicely, inspections are coming along. You know, n- they move along obviously, but obviously there's hiccups here and there, but nothing that really stop the ship completely,
mm,
So small changes here and there. Uh, Still dealing with the inspectors, trying to convince them to to work in our favor, which is a challenge. But got to keep on keeping on, right?
yeah, I think that one of the things that made me really happy while I was away was that I had you kind of just man the ship and really progress things, right?
Yeah,
And we had good communication. Like we talked at least every day for a few moments, which is kind of what I want to talk about today. Really about
yeah,
partnering up with people and what that entails, what that feels like, some pitfalls, some I guess some wins, losses, and how you can make that work. Because I know a lot of people have got questions about that,
yeah,
and people ask us all the time, right? And I think we've been blessed to have one another and kind of learn along the way, and
agreed.
just kind of proceed from there, right?
Very much so. Yeah, it's been an enjoyable experience, like our JV and our partnership. So, hearing from what other people have gone through, and even dealing with some other things myself, this is like a good partnership. And maybe we can share some things that we've done, that we're doing, that helps this partnership and everything that we're doing.
Yeah. So when we first came into this, we had a mutual understanding that listen, like we're friends first, above
Absolutely.
all.
Yeah.
Like no matter what happens, like we're friends first. We don't let all any business or personal stuff kind of intermingle when it comes to feelings, because at the end of the day, we're trying to accomplish the same goal, and we actually care about each other's like families and well-beings
Yeah,
and things like that. So we had that sort of. I mean, that's no one's ever going to write something like that on paper, obviously, but we didn't write that on paper. I'm not saying I don't know why I'm saying it like as if we had that on a contract or something like that. We didn't have that part, but just that mutual respect for one another. Um, we have an understanding. We don't want to disappoint each other, and we don't want to
yeah,
not keep each other's word or be accountable for like lying or changing your mind.
for
So
sure. And I also think that it was like we've known each other for quite a bit of time, so we kind of know how we both function. It's not just like, oh, hey, you came to me randomly with a project. It's like, hey, we've trained jujitsu for a long time. We went to Florida together.
yeah,
We've done trips like that. So it's not like it's like your first time seeing me in action, and even getting me into real estate, right? It wasn't just like, hey, Tom, I'm gonna get you into real estate. There was things that you asked me to do beforehand, and I was like, okay, I was willing to make those sacrifices and put the work in beforehand, so that I'm not just in it just to, oh, hey, it's a free property, or I have to do a little bit of work, right?
yeah,
It's you know that I'm willing to see this project through to the end and do what needs to be done to see it to the end.
yeah. So that's the thing, right? Like so, like we you mentioned knowing somebody a long time and knowing each other. You could know somebody a really long time, right? At that stage, you know whether you should do work with them or not.
Yeah.
But the thing is, what I'd found was that over the time that we did know each other, there was always, let's say, for example, if there was a checklist that was being kept track of. There were things that were being checked off as positives, right?
Hmm.
So I think that also goes vice versa as well. You probably think whenever you want to do something with somebody, or let's say you want to invite somebody, or maybe even recommend somebody to somebody else, they have to make some sort of like they have to have a checklist of I guess red flags that they don't meet, right?
Yeah, there's
Otherwise,
like a bunch of prerequisites that the person should check off, like in your boxes, to make sure that the partnership can and will be successful. I hear a lot of people using like the disc test, and find the different personality types and traits to make sure that they complement each other, because you need to know what you're bringing to the table, and also what the other person's bringing to the table, right? So an example, like if I'm a high level person and I just see the big picture, right? I don't want to have another high level person to a certain extent, because you have two high level people, all the small little details kind of get missed. So you want to have something that, okay, you're a high level person, yes, someone who also does, who's also very does all the fine detail things. So now you guys complement each other, right?
mm,
Oh, you have construction background, you have someone else has, the time and money, or time and energy.
yeah.
Okay, right?
So I think when you're saying high level, you mean like a generalist, somebody that's in sports terms, like somebody that's coaching or like basically overviewing or watching everybody, right? Kind
Mm-hmm.
of like bird's eye view, looking down. And then you would have like the other person would be like a specialist where they specialize in certain
Yeah,
areas, right?
exactly. Well, yeah, you got it. You also, yeah, again, like I said, know what you're bringing to the table, right? So maybe you bring in time and construction, but you don't have the money.
Yeah,
So then, oh, Kevin brings in the money and the experience. Okay, so now things complement each other versus,
it's flattering when you say experience. When I bring the experience,
yeah,
very
it's
flattering.
but it's true, right? So, someone has that. You don't want to have two guys who do construction,
Yeah,
but none of them have. But neither you guys have money or the experience, right? Yes, you
yeah,
have experience doing construction, but you have no experience doing a burr or a flip or something of those sorts. So, it's important to have those things, so that way your partnerships can succeed and it goes a little bit smoother.
yeah. It's experience, right? Whenever people use the word experience or say that they have experience, you don't need like this sort of like extensive experience. All experience is important,
For
right?
sure, absolutely.
We draw from our past experiences. So like my past uh, property, the triplex, with my other business partners, they also like we have the same sort of situation going on
Yeah.
where it's very positive as well. We're all complimenting each other. We're all sort of like jumping in and sacrificing as required, and just having that mutual respect and understanding for another. Same thing, just and I use that as a template, right? Keyword from experience, right? That
Yep.
that same template. Like these are my criterias for a good partner. And honestly, I love working with people because I feel it just kind of like relates back to what you said about everyone bringing something different.
Yeah.
Having too many chefs in the kitchen is a concern for everybody, right?
Absolutely.
But like when you're having people that complement, support one another, there's so many things that go on in the kitchen. You have somebody like prepping, you have somebody cooking, you have somebody actually this is not part of the kitchen per se, but it's before it's getting the vegetables, getting the meat sourced, a lot of stuff, just like the materials that we've been
Yeah.
sourcing. There's a lot of background things as well. I think that I wouldn't say that we've been doing a good or bad job because only time will tell. But from my experience so far, I don't feel overly anxious or stressed in any way. I feel like things happen, we're working on it, and I have enough experience to draw from that makes me be able to kind of overcome those certain challenges that we have. And I love sharing that with you because then you don't have to like kind of pretend to know or like learn like on the spot. It
Hmm.
might be the first time you've seen it, but it might not be the first time I've seen it,
Yeah, absolutely. And
right?
I think that between the experiences that you've had and like how everything's going, also having people who've done it before, or who are maybe a little bit farther than us, are it's good to have those kind of people in your corner that you can kind of bounce ideas off
Yeah.
to a certain extent, because then they can be like, hey, when I was doing a flip, ABC happened. So be wary of this, make sure to watch out for this because this can happen. Or hey, did you check this? Did you do that? And then now you can kind of go forward and be like, oh, hey, I remember he said that. I need to use floor leveler in this spot, or I need to make sure I test this or get ESA approval or whatever,
Yeah.
you know,
I I think one of the things I always encourage people that are new starting out to do, obviously to do smaller things first.
for sure,
And I realize why that's important because what I'm saying, like we're talking about our project as being something that's doable and attainable and not stressful. It's because from my last project to this project, it's a little bit of a step up,
for sure.
meaning that it's challenging enough that it won't like bore us or me. And it's going to be rewarding in terms of the experience that we get from the learning.
Yeah,
But when you're doing the same thing, for example, over and over again, it's great, yes. But I think that you'll achieve even more success if you do the same thing over and over again because you'll just master the heck out of it.
yeah,
But for me, I also wanted to do something just one step up, not 10, but one. So I feel like everything is a copy and paste from before, plus like four or five more things I'm not as familiar with
yeah.
that I can get acquainted to very easily and quickly, if that makes sense.
No, for sure. That I think that's the key, right? You don't want to take too many steps ahead because now then you're in over your head,
Yeah.
right? You need to start small, right? Whether it's okay, I start small, turnkey property, and then okay, maybe the next one, okay, I know it needs this and this, a couple small things, okay, and then you can start working your way up to hey, maybe my third or fourth one, hey, I'm ready for a basement conversion. I
Yeah.
want to see what it's like, or you can keep going from there, right? Okay, now you have a little bit of that experience. Maybe you want to build out, try and really take a big step up and build an ADU. Oh, I wanna, buy a fourplex. I want to start to, I want to see what it's like commercial side,
Yeah.
right? So you can take you can make it the steps as big or as small as you want, but just understand that obviously there's risk in everything, but um, that you're comfortable and that you've done your research and due diligence going into whatever project you're about to do. That's my 2 cents. I always like to try and do as much research, talk to people who've done it before, so that way I can kind of figure out and know what I'm getting myself into, because you want to be prepared mentally, and sometimes it doesn't matter how mentally prepared you really are. Some things you just can't really prepare for, you know. But again, that's part of the game.
Yeah. You mentioned risk, right? Like there's risk in doing things,
Yeah,
right? But I think that there's risk in not doing something as well.
very true.
That opportunity cost, that cost that you've kind of given up on that opportunity to pursue something else. There's always a lost cost. Like you never know until later down the line, right?
Yeah.
But I would say um, a lot of people that are scared to start. I mean, it's not their fault, and I think that it's the right feeling, and it's also obviously being protective of yourself and your capital, right?
Hmm.
And but I've been talking to a lot of like newer people looking to start, and I'm always encouraging them. The best way for you to learn is just start doing it, but do it in a way that meets your like ability and willingness, right? Because you might have a lot of capital, but if you're not willing to like risk it, then that's a different story. But I don't want to say like it's a risk. Everything is a risk. But
Yeah.
what I want to kind of encourage people to do is do something that you can feel comfortable doing because we talked about this last time too. What you're able to do, what you're capable of doing, what you're comfortable doing, what you're able to do. Those things are all kind of like synonyms of one another, right? Like
Yeah.
they're very similar. But I don't want people to not take action because of fear that they can
Yeah.
resolve or get answered, right? That's why I've been very open to meeting anybody and everybody to encourage, especially like people starting up, people, especially our friends, right?
Yeah.
The people that are really interested, specifically, they're always like bugging me about like this and that, and about like, hey, how about like what does tenant process look like? What happens if someone doesn't pay? What market is good? I don't have.
Yeah. And these are all valid questions, right? I think that um, going into like starting off investing, it's such a big pool. There's so
Yeah,
many different avenues and roads you can go down, right? So they don't know where to start. Someone says, "Hey, Kevin, go invest."
yeah,
Well, right now, like, okay, some being someone like me, I do some research now. Okay, well, research investing. Do I want to invest close? Do I want to invest far? Can I
yeah,
invest close? No. Okay, I have to invest far. Well, now you start falling down this rabbit hole of, okay, well, how do I have this? How do I have a proper manager? How do I make contacts with these people? Who do I know out there? How am I, all these questions, the tenant search. Am I gonna go out there and change light bulbs when
mm,
things happen? Some people don't feel comfortable being like, "Hey, my house is 2 hours away. My house is 45 minutes away." All right,
yeah,
so it just comes, So there's a lot of questions and concern, and I think that raises anxiety for people and makes people nervous, and they're not too sure about what they're going to do or how to progress. And this is where someone like you kind of like talks them off the ledge per se, or gets them out of that deep spiral that they're in.
yeah. I mean, I was gonna say before, I don't have the right answer for them per se
So true.
because yeah, it's true.
Everyone's journey is different, right?
But what I do have is like my set of stories that I can share with them,
Yep.
and they can kind of evaluate it. And I would tell them what I believe is good for me. What's good for me might be really good for me, and it might not be good for them. But I'm giving them that option to like at least listen to what I've kind of gone through. I think that when they hear that, it may make them more comfortable, or it may give them some perspective because remember when you first started off, like what
Yeah.
your questions were like and how you feel looking back on it now, you don't even remember that you went through those experiences.
Yeah. Well, for sure. I remember why one of my spirals. I remember I was like, oh, I went to Windsor and I was looking at this house, and then I was really nervous about putting an offer in, and then I was like, I don't know if I can afford it. Oh, maybe I'll just do pre-con. And
Yeah, yeah.
I went to like, not nothing against pre-con, but it was just that like I wasn't sure, and I was like, oh, I don't like. I'm gonna be putting down $100,000. That's a lot of money. I don't know if I
Mm,
really want to do that. Maybe I can put into something where I can put a little bit less down. Is there another option? Do I really, And I fell down that rabbit hole, right? And then same thing you're saying again.
yeah,
Like, are you like understand like what your risk appetite is and what you're comfortable doing, right? So was I comfortable spending putting 100 down at the moment? Probably not, just because I think that for me it was happening kind of quick, and the opportunity was there, and I didn't take that one, but it's okay because you know um, I found another deal, and it worked out better for me.
yeah. um let's kind of jump back to the joint venture, how we kind of started doing it, right? So we talked about it, and we we have a off record mutual respect already for one another, and then we sort of wanted to do it in a more legal format. So we signed some documents
Yeah,
um, that would encompass you and I's agreement about our dedication time for the project itself, and what each person sort of brought, and like you can say like shares or equity split between the two of us and those kinds of things. And we did this because we wanted to have something on paper, right,
yeah,
just to reference, right, because we do know that there is a lot of like legal framework when it comes to suing people and stuff like that. So
yeah,
we did kind of like everything in advance, and I always tell you like we always talk about this as being so important, but if it comes down to it, it's easier to talk about it way earlier and bring up the what if scenarios between you and I and all the bad stuff that could happen with our relationship and all the things that can go wrong in terms of that negative feeling. But talk about it ahead of time as being possibility,
yeah,
right?
absolutely. Both parties need to understand what can happen, if things go right, things go wrong, there's what if God forbid there's a death,
Yeah,
what happens then? Hey, you get divorced, and now it's like, what happens then? What if someone wants to back out early? There's all these things that you need to that I guess you don't think about, but they need to be talked about.
Yeah, we do. We did talk about all of that stuff. Let's talk about the first thing, the wills and the estate planning and insurance, right? So what I personally did, and highly encouraged you to do it. I don't know if you did or didn't yet, but we'll talk about it after the insurance part.
Yeah,
So that's the one thing. So Lynn, so she was very freaked out about the fact that, listen, like, you're trying to scale. She's also like a partner of ours, right?
yeah,
She's supported us a lot. So for those of you that don't know, Lynn is my wife. She's also in investing in real estate as well, and she's been a big supporter and really just really into it. But the thing is, though, I feel like I'm moving in a pace that's a lot faster than hers,
for sure.
right? So she has had this fear of like, oh, I'm not able to keep up. If something happens to you, what the heck's going to happen to me? How am I going to be able to manage? How am I going to be able to continue on that path? Because I'm already like 4 chapters behind, right?
Yeah,
And to no fault of anybody's own, that's just the way we structured and agreed it. Like, I want to be more active and I want to be more involved because I'm just super passionate. It's not like she's less passionate. She doesn't need to be as involved if I'm that involved, you know?
yeah,
So just for the sake of my wife and her scheduling and respect of her time, I told her this is what I want to do, and this is my dream, and this is what I want to pursue. So you don't have to kind of have too many cooks in one kitchen per se. Same analogy.
yeah,
So she was freaked out about the fact that, like, hey, listen, there's not enough adequate insurance if something happens. What do we do? So obviously we increased our insurances. We got more insurance than probably we needed, but I mean, that's
yeah.
probably not true. I mean,
No, yeah,
that's
because
not true. There's
yeah,
not enough.
yeah.
It depends on you.
Yeah,
That's the
and that
reality.
also gives you room to continue growing, right? So that way, when you do, if you do scale, you guys still have there's there's space in the shoe
Yeah,
to keep growing,
yeah,
right? So, yeah, it's to a certain extent you can never have too much insurance.
yeah. I mean, it's personal preference at that point,
Yeah,
right? But at that where I realized that I needed insurance, I was able to get it. You know, at I think the insurance that I got was fair because it's due to my age and my health. So the process goes as such. You definitely need, like, I recommend you do need a broker or somebody that is in your corner for that too. Just like everything, you need everyone in your corner that's going to support you.
yeah,
So I was lucky enough to have I don't know if you've met Annie, but she was my tutor growing up when I was in my teenage years, and she's also an insurance agent. So she's somebody that I really trust. So I know that she wouldn't like scam me or anything like that. So I asked her for a lot of advice about these things, and I didn't even get it. Like, I talked to her about it even before we invested in real estate. But at the time, prior to getting our first property, I got just minimal, like just very basic. But
yeah,
but as we started getting more properties, like most recently, I got more and more of it to be like just to have that comfort and that peace of mind. But the process goes as such. Like, they come over to your house, do blood work, right? Yeah, they do. They do blood work and they do urine as well. And it's like they're just checking for like health, like to make sure you don't have like these diseases that are on their list because they might not insure. Lucky enough, like, Lynn and I are pretty young, so we don't have like real illnesses that are like life threatening. So we couldn't get qualified for some adequate insurance health wise. And before that, I'd already had some, so we just kind of piling up and just adding them up. And then because you got to remember too, when you're investing in real estate, as much as we talk about the future and what those assets will look like, because we're investing for the future, we need to protect those assets as well. And also, we not only that, but there's an accumulation of liabilities, which
yeah,
people have kind of forgotten about, right? And not anyone's fault. When we're in it for the long run and we're in it for the future, so we're focused on that. But at the end of the day, though, there's all accumulated a lot of liabilities. And having said that, those liabilities, if you're gone, they need to be taken care of one way or another.
yeah,
And whether you are, like if you own a corp or whatever, like you're still a shareholder in that corporation, right? So that's the thing. Like, you want to be like responsible for not only yourself, but for the people in your life that remain when you pass. And I know a lot of people don't talk about uh, like death and things like that because we're young. We don't think about it. We're young,
yeah,
but I highly encourage you to really like remember like your mom, your dad, your sisters, your wife to be you know, your future children, what that would mean to them if you kind of just took a minute to like get enough information to make that decision that would not burden them when you're gone, right?
Yeah,
It
very
doesn't
true.
take too much time either. Uh,
Yeah.
uh,
It's relatively quick and kind of on the point where you said that like, you and your wife uh you guys like what like she might be four chapters behind. I remember even for me, I remember we had this conversation off air, but
yeah,
we were talking about making sure your partner is kind of they don't need to be 100% per se up to speed, but they need to be aligned with whatever you're trying to do, and you can give them the spark notes of what's going on or
yeah,
of what's going on. Hey, hey, we bought this place. Hey, we need to do XYZ. Hey, come with me to go see the property. Like having them involved
yeah,
kind of takes a little bit of stress off them because sometimes they just hear that like, hey, I bought this house. Hey, I bought a triplex. Hey, I bought
yeah,
another house, and
yeah,
they're just like, what the heck is going on?
yeah,
But then if they're kind of involved in the process, then they're like, oh, okay, I kind of see, I kind of know what's going on, and they can take a little bit of stress off them, but at the same time, it can also add stress. But then you also have that insurance
yeah,
to make sure that, hey, God forbid something does happen, you're going to be in a position where you're kind of covered. It's not going to be all left to you where hey you're stuck with all this with the burden,
yeah.
right? So
Yeah, I mean, that's something that we should definitely should like dive more deeper into is that relationship with your partner, your spouse, your wife, fiance, girlfriend, whatever, right? You got to really highly consider their feelings when it comes to the real estate investing side because it's like when they start off too, maybe they're not like as into it as we are, right?
yeah,
And that's fair play. Like there's like not everything is for everybody. But the thing is though, because you're involved in it at that sort of capacity, they by default are dragged into it.
yeah,
So you when let's say for example, right, you will go swimming and you're a good swimmer or you're an average swimmer, you can survive in the water. They might not know how to swim, and you're forcing somebody to go into the water with you when they're not comfortable. They don't know how to swim, so they don't know how to do any of the deal analysis stuff. They don't know what's a good property or a bad property,
yeah,
and you didn't even give them floating wings. It's
yeah,
it's stressful for them.
yeah. It's yeah, it can be it can be a bit overwhelming for them, that like even with my fiance, every time I try and talk to her about the stuff, about the house, sometimes she gets a little, you know, it's a lot now. Hey, we're trying to figure out this deal. We're looking at this. We're running the numbers on this. Hey, we need to keep on track of XYZ contractors and upstairs needs to be done. And for her, sometimes it's a lot, and
Yeah,
she might not understand it. And again, but she's like you said, dragged along for this journey for better or for worse.
yeah. I mean, that's the thing, right? Like out of respect for your wife, your spouse, you know, uh, it is in your best interest to preserve that relationship
Absolutely.
because I know in modern times today it's not like before. You know, there's a lot of relationships and families that fall apart. Don't make this the reason why your relationship falls apart, right?
Yeah.
Like, don't make it more stressful than it has to be because you're gonna be going through a lot of stuff and you're gonna need, you know, like that comfort at home, and you want to be that provider and that comforter at home for her too. So what I'd realize, and this is just through experience, you know, like Lynn is really interested, but for her to dedicate the same amount of time I dedicate into it, it's not realistic. She has her own career, she has her
Yeah.
own things too,
Exactly.
right? And because I can do my part, I'm more than happy to do my part for the both of us, right? So it's fine. So I I really think that the best way is really to uh, remember why you're doing it, right? Like at the same time, you're doing it for your loved ones, and your loved ones includes your wife and your girlfriend and your partner. So really, if things are kind of like not working out in that department, I mean, it's there's something that has to kind of change, right?
Yeah.
And I think the real estate investing side, that's something that really a lot of people don't really talk about. And the reason is because it's not about real estate investing directly. But if it affects your life and real estate investing is a big part of your life, then it is a part of real estate investing.
Absolutely, right? Yeah. Again, I think that's a part where a lot of people forget, they just think that it's all about acquiring houses
Yeah.
and making cash flow and appreciation and life's good, but
And
um
and by the way, no criticism to people that don't think about it. It's just to get to where you need to go, there's a lot of sacrifice that needs to be made, and sometimes your family gets sacrificed along the
Yeah,
way,
yeah,
right?
exactly. And yeah, the sacrifice might not necessarily be just you. It's other people who have to sacrifice, There's it's like to a certain extent, I forget where I was listening. I forget I heard this somewhere, but the guy was saying that like he's like you can want all of this, but your partner never asked for any of this, right?
Mm,
Right? So, you can want to conquer the world, but if all your partner wants to spend time with you and you just want to conquer the world and you're not spending time with her, right?
yeah,
It's she never asked for any of that. So if your partner decides to leave because of whatever, just understand that uh this is a path that you chose,
yeah,
but like keeping them on board and kind of keeping them involved might actually I think is beneficial for long term, because if you don't, it just adds additional stress, and that stress can cause money, and it can cost money, as in maybe you have to step away from a couple deals because you need to make sure that
yeah,
your fiance or family member, whoever your partner is okay. Ideally you want to, though I think a lot of people, when they invest in real estate, is so that way they can spend more time with their
yeah.
loved one, but um
Later down the line,
exactly, but they I think they don't realize that in the short, like in the immediate, it's a sacrifice of big magnitude
yeah,
for them, right? So that way, like you want to make up for lost time, but again, time waits for no one, right? So you need to make sure that your partner is okay with what's about to go down. Hey, for the next 5 years, we might not 5 years, whatever, 10
yeah,
years. Um, we're gonna spend time, but it might not be as much as you want. But understand, at the end of this, I'm gonna be all yours, because we'll have enough so that way we can do what we want, where we will be financially free, and you want to travel, we want to do whatever, then we can do that. But in the meantime, in between time, it's kind of grind mode, right?
yeah. I wanted to focus a lot today on relationships. Actually, now that we're diving into it, because it's a good topic to talk about. So Lynn, she's the one that encouraged me to start real estate uh, investing or buying real estate because she had seen what that had provided for her uh, mentor, like her
Hmm.
mentor, who was her uncle, who was a very successful businessman in Vietnam. So basically, from my understanding, and the reason why this resonates with me the most is because her dad was somebody that was working a salary and good salary, working for a big corporation. So he worked for Honda Corporation in Vietnam, from my
Okay.
understanding, right? So he was like working at a management level, and he was working a lot of hours and stuff like that. But then her uncle invested in a lot of real estate, and also he owned a company, like a factory that did basically create electrical switches for I guess I don't know if it was lighting or breakers or whatever, something like that.
Yeah.
But he owned this factory which had sold to move to when he moved to US. He had sold it, but he started this company, and this was like back in the day when the Vietnam was just coming up, and it wasn't like what it is today. What it is today is a lot nicer, and it's definitely becoming less and less of a third world country every single day. So he had sold this, so he had started this actually, and he was not doing financially well at that time. He grew it up, but then at some point in his life, he was able to accumulate capital from his business that he invested in real estate, and then he just was like not even in his like 50s yet, and he was just hanging out and making passive income from his real estate, his rentals, and he invested in like homes, and he invested in commercial things like where he would have like 30-40 year leases with like banks and things like that. So he didn't start off there. He started off way. before that,
Before that, yeah.
doing really grimy ghetto things, right? And it wasn't nice. It wasn't like things you can show off right away, right?
Hmm.
But then eventually, like when she told me that story, um, it was like for sure it was one of those things I thought about, but it was like obviously not something I could do right away. Also, like in my mind, I had limiting beliefs at that time. And then the thing that confirmed it for me was the Rich Dad Poor Dad, the Robert Kiyosaki. The
Yeah.
story is exactly the same. One is rich dad, one is poor dad. But the poor dad is not like that poor. It's just that's the analogy that he uses,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right? So he has the same analogy, like Robert Kiyosaki, same thing, same thing. His dad was a salary man making a very decent income, but he had to trade time for money. And then the other, I guess his friend's dad was a businessman, entrepreneur, real estate investor. So these were the same exact stories. And when I remembered, she encouraged me. I would be kind of like turning it down a little bit because I was like, oh, it's not ready, not right away. I can't do it right now. Like those kind of things, just like a lot of
Yeah.
people, right? So then when that happened, I also was really lucky because I also remember I told you my friend, my mentor that got me to real estate investing. That was like the second phase. So Lynn actually helped plant the seed and propel the mentality, the thought, at least give the idea.
Hmm.
I had I was lucky enough to have more people, peer group, or people in my inner circle that kind of help facilitate that. And where I'm trying to go with this is that it's a beautiful thing that she helped me start,
Yeah.
but it would be a huge shame if she didn't continue it with me. So I always try and slow down. I always try and encourage her. Even right now, we're doing some tenant screening stuff, and then she's in the other part of the world right now. But I'm like asking her, like, listen, can you be available during this time? I got to present to you some tenants, potential tenants that we got to look at. I really keep her involved. And she was telling me things like, oh, I can't meet right now. Like, and I just make myself as available, like, to accommodate for her time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because otherwise, what's going to happen is like, if I don't keep her involved, for example, not only is she going to feel like betrayed, she might not. I don't know if she might not even at this stage because she's so busy that she might feel okay if I don't involve her. But some stages where she was not as busy, she would feel like, well, I have time. Why are you not including me? Or I could make a better decision than you in regards to this sort of stuff because XYZ reason, right?
Yeah.
Because I have more experience, or because she's like could read people better. I don't know what it is really, but what I'm saying is you got to keep people that at least like your wife involved. And if you have kids one day, I want you to keep your kids, my future children, keep them um, involved,
Yeah.
right? Keep them like don't be like, oh, this is like daddy's work, like this is for adults, this is for grown-ups only. Like
Hmm.
you want to keep these things sacred, but like available to your family, and make it a sport, like a sport and activity that you can do together. Otherwise it becomes like just work, and then everyone's gonna look, oh, this is work, then you treat it like work, they treat it like you're doing work, and then it's not fun for anybody,
Yeah.
right? And I get a lot of big inspiration from Tat Nguyen, that we always talk about him,
Yeah.
that Vietnamese American real estate entrepreneur, investor. He has his wife involved as well, and he has his two boys. They're like teenage like boys. They're a little bit like I think they're in their later teens now. He keeps them really involved too.
Yeah, they're all involved. They kind of shows them how to make money and stuff like that. And there, yeah, no, it's really good. It shows that, like, if you don't you don't treat it like work, or like, like the value and importance of money, and how to build wealth, right? It's not like he's not just giving it to them. He's showing them the process, like, hey, this is how to do it, right? I'm not gonna just be like, okay, here's your allowance, here's whatever,
Yeah,
here's the keys to the kingdom, right? I want you to be able to understand, like, like the grind, the hustle, and how to make it happen. And if you keep, you show the interest, I'm here to support you, right? I want you to understand and appreciate kind of what you have, and how you got it,
yeah.
and like, I think looking at that, stuff like that will be stuff that, like, I look at and I'm like, hey, that's something that I want to do for my kids as well.
Keep them as involved. If you can throw a football with them, and you can throw maybe play catch and play like throw a baseball with them, and you can kick a soccer ball together. Why can't you take them to some rental properties and like No, if they're interested, they're not interested. It's the same as any sports that you get them involved in
Yeah.
that they don't like. They just won't like it. But why don't you introduce something to them that you are in love with and you're passionate about? Maybe they'll find the same passion. It doesn't matter what the activity is,
Yep.
right? It could be anything, but involve people that you love. Maybe they love it. Maybe they'll do even better than you. Maybe they'll become your partner one day. That's not the intention, of course. Like if you show your kids, you're not gonna like I know a lot of parents, they want the best for their kids, right? And they what ends up happening is that even though everyone gets hurt, they come from a good place, right? They want to help,
Yeah.
they want to do the best they can. But like I'm telling you, like the worst case that will happen is you introduce it to them and you don't force them and they kind of enjoy it and then the family enjoys it together.
Yeah.
It's a sport now, you know? It's
Yeah.
like, you know, it's like literally something that is fun for everyone. And I remember when like I said when Lynn first introduced me the idea to this about doing this, I really was like not like I am today. Like today, I feel very optimistic and positive. Good things, bad things happen. We deal with it as it comes. Bad things happen. They're not bad because the story's not done yet. We're gonna actually look for a way to resolve that bad situation.
Yeah.
But back in those days, it was literally like a fear because it was all theory. It was all like a story. And
Yeah.
then
It's the fear of the unknown, right? You don't know what you don't know.
yeah, I mean, but it was just a story that from somebody else that I couldn't relate to at that time. And I know a lot of people, whenever I
Yeah.
talk about these things to some people, I think that people might not be able to relate to it. They're like, okay, well, you're here and I'm here. But let me tell you, I wasn't that far off away from there. Like maybe I was intimidated by others' greatness because they were so far ahead than me. And one
Yeah.
day I'll be really far ahead too, but I actually don't forget like where I came from, those roots, those beginning days where I was like, oh my goodness, like this is how it looked for me. I was freaking out, panicking, just like when you were in the. Remember we talked about this last time too.
Yeah.
You were in the car and you kind of changed your mind, like you were like, I don't know if this is for me. And truthfully, it might not be for you. But aren't you glad you did it so you know that it's actually for you?
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely, right? There's comfort in routine, right? There's comfort in like what you know, right? To really grow, you need to expand, right? You need to go outside your comfort zone. And and like if it wasn't for real estate right now, like I mean, I mean, what would I be doing? Be doing the very similar things, but
You'd be doing drugs. No, I'm just
extremes,
kidding.
extremes. I'd be on the street. I'd be living underneath the bridge.
Yeah,
Um,
you'd be trying to rent the house that you bought now
exactly.
from
Yeah,
another person,
exactly.
right?
Yeah. I mean, hey, you never know, right? But s- it's one of those things, right? It's like, hey, to me, I think that looking back now, I think it was a good decision. In the moment, I was kind of nervous, not kind of, I was very nervous. It's again, I think I said this last time, but it's a big lump sum of money. It's probably the biggest purchase you've ever made. So, and it's like it's a purchase that I guess to the normal person when they make that big purchase, they're living in it,
Mm,
and it's like, hey, I get to see it every day, touch, feel, and see it. But to me, I was buying something that I wasn't gonna see every day. I wasn't gonna live in it,
yeah,
right? I was entrusting it to someone else to kind of take care of.
yeah.
But you know, uh, I think that it was a good decision. It led me down this path and kind of show that like, hey, it's doable. It's something that's actually achievable, right? And like you even just doing this is kind of changes the trajectory of my life, my family's life, whatever, my future family too. So forever grateful for the journey. Whether the good and or bad that happens, it's all part of the game. I understand
It's
that.
made us a lot closer too.
Oh, for sure, big time, right? Like, um, man, like because I remember when you asked me to read Rich Dad Poor Dad, even at the beginning, right? I could have just not read it. Actually, and then
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right, and then no, they'd be like, okay, well, this guy's not serious. Sure, we'd still be friends. We talk jujitsu and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Maybe you're still trying to convince me to get into real estate, but again, it was an opportunity to come up, and it was
I
like
mean,
it was.
I don't think I would try and convince you. I just tell you, and if you don't want to do it, then you don't want to do it. I can't like force you to do
Well, yeah,
anything.
that's what I mean, right? Like that's what I mean. You'd be like, "Oh man, you should really get into real estate. Maybe we should get into real estate." And I'd be like, "Yeah, And if I think that is one of those things where You try once, you try twice, you try three times. Okay, this guy doesn't want to do it. I'll leave him.
Yeah, I'll leave him in his natural habitat, you know.
Yeah, exactly. So to me, it was like, it's not a, it's not every day that someone comes up and gives you an opportunity to maybe change your life. You
It's dramatic when you say it like that.
it's yeah,
It sounds so dramatic,
it
you know.
does, but to a certain extent, there's you can continue. I could have just continued doing what I was doing every day, just going to work, work two jobs, try and make money so I can live to buy a house around here, and then that means now I have to keep working these two jobs to make sure I can pay for this house, and you know,
And
uh,
you can never quit either.
exactly right. But now it with this it kind of opens up things a little bit more. Right now I have options. I can be like, oh, you know, I have two houses now. Like little side note, but my dad always told me, he was always like, he's like, I don't want you to be just like me. I want you to be better than me.
I think every dad wants their son to be
Yeah,
better than them, eh?
yeah, and like he really instilled that in me. So I'm always trying to push to that next level. So now, you know, still young, but I would like to think that I'm living that for him. I'm living that for him. So that way, the next generation, like my kids or you know the my grandkids, whatever, they do even better than me, right? So it's like just by investing in real estate, uh, I've tried to kind of change that trajectory for them. Again, super dramatic,
It is dramatic. It
but
sounds,
again,
yeah.
I'm making it seem like I just bought like I just like I won like
Yeah,
I
you
hit
won
the
the lottery.
lottery,
Yeah.
right? But I look at it, it's like Rome wasn't built in one day, and again, you're in it for the long term, so I know that good things will good things will happen. I'm putting it out into the air, putting it out into the world, speaking it into existence, and then yeah, I know it's going to come with some hardships, but I think on the other end is going to be good. So uh, again, my journey is just beginning, but I'm excited and still very optimistic.
So this past couple days, I was away. And
Yeah.
I handed off a lot of homework over to you to do. I mean, when I say homework, I just a bunch of things to for you to help handle while I was away. And that's also another good thing about having a good partner because
Yes.
you don't have to always, you know, depend on yourself. You have your team to depend on, and you tell me how that was all week. Like you were, what did that feel like? Were you nervous at all? Because I gave you like the keys to like, you know, a car that not necessarily
Yeah.
fully licensed to drive. Maybe you got a G1,
Yeah.
but you know, they requires a G2, G3 or G3, G license,
Yeah.
you
Your
know,
G license. You
but
gave
you're
me the
only
keys to Lamborghini. You're going away for the weekend.
yeah, and then you only got your G1. You can still drive, but I mean, you know how to drive, but like you're not fully there yet. Like
Yeah.
maybe. So what was that kind of like for you?
Uh, it was good, I feel that uh I understand kind of how like your train of thought, and like we're all on the same page. So when talking to contractors and all those kind of things, it was very easy to make those decisions. It wasn't like I was making any like project altering changes,
Yeah,
but I was just communicating with all of them, right? Making sure that we're still on track and okay, hey, this is happening. Hey, okay, cool. You make your notes, and then if we need to discuss further at a later date when you come back, then so be it. But yeah, no, it was okay. Like I understand that things like this will pop up whether you're tired, you're burnt out, you're on vacation, whatever.
I was on vacation.
Yes, we'll get into your journey
Yeah,
and into your absence for a little bit, but yeah, that's the nice thing about having it. It's not that like it's like you have a pilot and a co-pilot.
yeah,
Okay, hey, you know what? The pilot needs to take a little bit of a rest. Cool, co-pilot jumps in, and it's like almost all of our calls, whenever there's calls with vendors or anything, we're usually both on the line,
yeah.
or we're both. they were both introduced and they both know us. So that way it's not like, oh hey, I was talking to Kevin about XYZ and I have no idea what you're talking about. It's okay, like we're all on the same page. And so anything that happens that you talk to someone about, you give me the notes about and vice versa. So
Yeah.
it was I felt like it was pretty seamless.
I mean, I try to be careful and responsible in terms of the way that we communicate, because I think that there's just a lot of moving parts right now. So you got to be
Yeah.
very detailed. I numbered everything out for you. One, you know, electrician. Two, this person, right, and their phone number, and this is where we left off.
Yeah.
Two, no, plumbing we didn't have. A cleaning, right? Cleaning,
Yeah,
um,
cleaning, tenant search.
tenant search, three tenant search, phone number, where we left off, and voice noted everything as well. You
Yep.
voice noted too. Sometimes in writing is good. Writing is good, but sometimes it might be interpreted not correctly. So you have to have some voice notes to
Yeah,
back it
the
up
voice
as well.
notes make it a lot easier. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. And you can listen to it again and again, and then you can, if you don't really know, you can ask to confirm. But what I think that was really good about this was that it's a good practice as well, because it was only 3 days, so it's not a big deal. But on those 3 days, this is where I went. I went to Florida, right? And the reason why I went to Florida was, of course, to visit people like that mean something to us, like friends and family, because I have a friend that lives out there that has a couple properties. They are permanent green card holders, so permanently living in the U.S., Florida specific, Central Florida. They have a family, and they used to live in Canada before. They live there now, and they have a couple properties. They bought like all pretty much brand new. I think one of them is not brand new. When I say brand new, I mean brand new builds, which is interesting because even there it's still affordable. Like the houses there that were brand new build, they're very large, spacious. They have like not pools, but like ponds, like mini man-made lakes in their backyards,
Hmm.
and they're going at like 415,000 maximum that I saw. There's probably more expensive ones.
For sure, for sure.
415,000 in certain in that not the community that I was looking at, and that converts to about 500 something, 570 something thousand.
Which
Like
which is kind of nuts to think that like you're getting a full detached
full
house,
detached,
basically brand new build,
brand new.
right? For call it 500, 600,000, right?
Yeah.
Whereas, um,
Hey, and on top of that too, they're like 3 to 4 bedrooms. They
yeah,
have ensuite washroom, right? And they have basically some of them have. It's funny. There's the builder that we went to look at. They have what's called in-law suite, which we're all familiar with, right? Like we have like garden suites, in-law suites, for that are not, maybe some not legal basements, but something that's finished up so people can stay and visit.
mm-hmm,
They have it on a side by side split. So I went to visit one of these properties. They don't and they don't do pre-construction the same as we do. I don't know if this is true for everywhere, but from where I was, they build all these communities out already, and people come and buy them. So it's like putting things in the Walmart shelf, and people are just picking up to buy. So there's houses that are already built, and then people will come look at them, and if they want to buy them, they buy them. And if it's past, I guess if their projections are not correct and they overbuild, then these properties go on sale. But they don't go on sale the way that you think they go on sale. They didn't reduce the price. They just give you more rebates, or they
yeah,
call them incentives. So let's say, for example, there's a house that was supposed to close. This is a real example, not a fake one. March 1st was supposed to be the closing, or having somebody sell it already, or somebody was supposed to move in. It was past March 1st already, for example, right? So that means that it's still available. So they'll keep adding incentives to encourage people to buy them instead of lowering the price. Incentives meaning rebate or a check at the end to help with closing costs. So there was one property I saw, it was like 58,000 US in rebate, which is
mm,
crazy. And I didn't even, as a Canadian, you go over there, you see a different system, you try to like wrap your head around it. I
yeah.
don't fully understand it myself, but I thought that was really interesting. And also, all these communities that are there, they have like a community park, they have a community pool, they have like trails and stuff in this community,
Sorry, is this part of like an HOA or is this
part
like
of HOA. So
okay?
all these new builds that I went to see, They are built by different builders, but they are all HOA. They have so HOA standard, but yeah,
Homeowners association or homeowners. Yeah.
yeah. So homeowners association, you got to pay like a fee for them to like, I guess, manage the amenities, just like a condo fee.
Yeah.
So they know they'll tell you to cut the grass, water the grass to make it look nice. So everyone lives in a nice community, and kind of like lives in harmony with one another. It's nice. It's not from what I understand, it wasn't super expensive. It was like $100 a month, very affordable. But whether they increase or not, I'm gonna assume that they will increase over time as the cost of maintenance and things like that go up. So it was interesting. I saw so many Canadians down there, an abundant amount of Canadians because also like snowbird culture, right?
Yeah.
People love to go down there.
Snowbird. It's also March break right now for us too. Or at least while we're recording this, it's March break.
Yeah,
So I yeah, I'll continue. Sorry. Just
yeah,
want to
yeah, yeah. That
throw that out there too. So maybe that's why I saw a lot of
yeah.
Canadians down during your trip.
Saw a lot of Canadian plates. March break. Yep, that's right. While we're recording this, it's during March break. And it was just nice, like really to be down there and learn about a different market, network with people, see some familiar faces, and it was great. I really enjoyed myself. The food there is also good. You always got to eat too while you're there, and I like exploring new things for sure. But I think that it's very diverse and multicultural depending on which areas you go to. Where I was Central Florida, so like Orlando area, drove to Tampa Bay, and then Tampa back, and then went to Daytona Beach. So it was in the middle area. We went to Fort Lauderdale, Hollywood, and Miami the last time.
Yeah.
Different neck of the woods, but yeah. So I mean, there's a lot to talk about for sure. We'll have to dive more
Yeah.
into different
Another
markets,
next episode.
U.S. markets and stuff. I'm still beginner, don't know anything,
Yeah.
even before beginner. So we'll have to kind of like talk more about that another time. Just researching now, so when the time is ready and the
Yeah,
time is right, we're ready to inform buyers and understand the market. That's all it is,
for
and
sure.
and that's what I encourage everyone to do, especially when you want to do something. You gotta find research, find the right people that help support you, and that's it, guys. Thanks for coming on, Ty.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate
Here,
it.
we're gonna
As
sign like a
always.
we're gonna sign like a 10-year contract where you're gonna be coming on residency style. So
That's it. There you go. I'll be your local usher.
there we go, local usher.
There you go.